pretty soon you'd be saying, I think I got to have a second opinion. Second opinion might say, oh yeah, we see 1 million of these a year. You got to have surgery on that. Now you're good. But just to blindly go have surgery because somebody looks at something, that'd be kind of foolish, especially if you knew they had a financial interest in the surgery center. So for some pastor or some leader to say to you, I think you have to do this, and they don't even know you, boy, that's a tragic, tragic thing. From New Life Ministries, this is Going Deeper with Stephen Arterburn. I'm Stephen Arterburn. And Going Deeper is all about taking the tough issues, the hard issues of life, looking a little bit deeper inside so that we can gain some insight into our lives. Hi, welcome to Going Deeper. I'm really glad that you're listening to this because this is a really important part of our series on toxic faith. We've been going through all of the beliefs which actually become rules in a toxic faith system. 21 of these beliefs, and we're on belief number 10, and you could call it irrational submission. And the belief is specifically this: I must always submit to authority in a Christian organization, especially a church. That's the belief. I must always submit to authority. It comes right out of this book, Toxic Faith, and you can get a copy of that at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. So when we talk about irrational submission or people submitting to the authority of the church, you know, sometimes we think of these big, massive organizations and we think of this like a cult with thousands of people in it, and this is what they do. They get caught up in it. But I got to tell you, it is more common that you see this particular belief played out in small churches with small people in charge who have big egos, major character deficits, and they ask for their authority to be all and everything in the person's life. In some churches, that pastor will demand that he approve of every marriage that takes place. You don't like that? Leave the church. Wow, incredible. Can you imagine you not having the freedom to choose whoever you want to choose, date whoever you want to date, because the pastor doesn't like it? So often, a pastor like that who is obsessed with his own authority and power, he really kind of has an unspoken sexual attraction to all the women and wants to have some kind of connection, link, especially the young women, into their lives. And this is one of the ways that he does that. I talked with a sex addict one time who was a pastor, and he never had sex with any woman he was with. Now, this is a guy that got into recovery, restored his life, and I believe everything he said about his experience. But he would get involved with younger women. And you know what they would do together? They would go somewhere like a park, secluded area, sit in lawn chairs. This was in California. And he would just feast on this young woman being fascinated with him. It was a mood alter. It elevated. It was like an obsession just to spend time with a naive younger woman, asking him questions and watching this person be fascinated with him. This is where this kind of situation comes from, is that kind of bizarre, sick need to be a part of people's lives, to have some kind of either get something from them or demand they listen to what you want them to do. And it could be you get the mood change through fascination, or it could be you delight in watching people do what you tell them to do because of your authority. You know, I don't know anywhere in Scripture where it says that the pastor has the gift of dictatorship or has been awarded a license to be a dictator. The pastor needs to be serving the people. But in sick churches, the people are serving the pastor, meeting the pastor's needs, and all under the guise that I must submit to authority. Now, let's just say you have a little pain in your side, and you went to see the doctor, and you heard that the doctor had just cut the ribbons on a brand new surgery center that he was part owner of. Nothing wrong with that at all. Just, I think it's a good thing that people don't have to go to the hospital. They can get surgery outpatient. All that's good. But let's just say you knew this guy just opened this surgery center and you had a little pain, and before he did tests or anything, he said to you, you need surgery. And you knew it was going to be done in that little surgery center. Would you just say, okay? Or would you say, wait a second, you're my doctor. Aren't you supposed to do some tests? And he might say he doesn't need to. Or aren't you supposed to, consider whatever, ask me about this thing? Pretty soon you'd be saying, I think I got to have a second opinion. Second opinion might say, oh yeah, we see 1 million of these a year. You got to have surgery on that. Now you're good. But just to blindly go have surgery because somebody looks at something, that'd be kind of foolish, especially if you knew they had a financial interest in the surgery center. So for some pastor or some leader to say to you, I think you have to do this, and they don't even know you, boy, that's a tragic thing. You've heard of urban legends before. I know of a pastor who told all of his people that they should absolutely not buy this specific brand of clothes because the person in charge of that brand was a Satan worshiper. And what he said was, this person had gone on to Oprah and talked about her worship of Satan. Well, back in the old days when Oprah was on, I was a guest of hers 3 different times, which was quite an honor. I have 3 mugs with Oprah on it. But when I was there the 3rd time, I asked the person there who was kind of running us around, took care of all the guests and everything, and they were very nice people. I said, what about this person who heads up this fashion house? That she said to Oprah, just right out, that she worshiped Satan. This person said to me, you know what, we get calls about that almost every day. And she said, first of all, that person doesn't worship Satan. And then secondly, she's never been on this program. So here was a pastor telling people, you must not do this. And it was based on an urban legend, a falsehood. But he loved having a way or a reason to tell people what to do. One pastor told his congregation, this is a congregation in Hawaii, I write about it in Toxic Faith, a certain toothpaste that they must not use. Because on this brand that makes this toothpaste, there's this symbol. It's got moon and stars, and it stands for Satan, and part of the profits from this organization go to the Church of Satan. Nothing could be further from the truth. But in an attempt to elevate themselves as an authority and have another thing to throw out at people, to have some kind of control or influence, they just come up with the most bizarre things. Well, did Jesus ever talk about that? Yeah, he did. He said, whoa, and which I think, it's spelled W-O-E, whoa, but I think it's more W-O-A-H, whoa, like pulling a horse to get him to stop. Stop doing this. And what he was saying, he said to these leaders, you put these burdens on these people, these unnecessary burdens for them to carry around, and you don't lift a finger to help them. And that's in a faith that's all about grace. That's about a God who is rich in mercy. But the toxic faith system becomes all about demands. So you're not just asked to teach the Sunday school class, you're asked to bake for the Wednesday night supper, and you're expected then to run the youth group, and on it goes. And at some point you have to say, I cannot be a healthy person doing this. This is irrational demand from an irrational authority figure who really doesn't understand. It's that person's job to serve the church, not the church to serve that person. So if it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't right. Now, we don't want to do everything based on feelings, but if you get a little squeamish when somebody asks you to do something in the church because it feels like pressure and there's shame and guilt and all that associated with it, maybe the wrong thing to do would be to fill in, meet that demand, try to step up for the request, versus to say, maybe this isn't the right church for me. Well, that's the old toxic faith belief number 10. We'll deal with number 11 next time here on Going Deeper. Thank you for joining me for this series. Thank you for joining me for Going Deeper. I hope something I've said may have helped just a little bit. If you have a question you'd like me to answer or comment, just email me at stevesocial@newlife.com. I'll see you next time.
If you want to support Going Deeper with Stephen Arterburn, be sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. And if you know someone who would benefit from this episode, be sure to share it with them. See you on the next Going Deeper with Stephen Arterburn from New Life Ministries.